Thank you so much for good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our third edition of the NCS and Uncle Paddy Tech webinar series. I have with me here my co-moderator, Mr. Victor Ekpo. Could you say hello, Mr. Victor?
Yeah. Hello.
Thank you very much, everyone. So we now would be kicking off into the opening prayer. And so at this point, I would like each and every one of us to take the next 1 minute to commit this webinar into God's hands. And the reason I say this is that for everyone joining this call, you're joining this for a reason because you want to learn something. There's something you're looking forward to. And so let's commit every aspect of this webinar into God's hands. And that anyone who needs to be here will get the opportunity to be here and get something meaningful out of it. Yes, so let's commit it all into God's hands as we are about to start the webinar. Amen. And on this note, we will now be moving on to the next thing on our agenda. And as we're moving on, I would like to please encourage us on the call. If we have friends, family, or caregivers who need to be on this webinar, because it's one that everyone should be a part of, please share the link with your friends, with your family, so that they can join it. And so for the welcome remarks, I would be handing the mic to my moderator, Mr. Victor, to invite the person to take the welcome remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Modukwe. It's wonderful to be here once again. Would you please make Dr. Samuel Otene a panelist so that they will be able to speak? I know that he's on the call. So we'll just give him a few minutes to be able to switch and be able to speak. To give the welcome remarks today is the president of the Nigerian Cancer Society, who is ably represented by the chairman of the training committee, Dr. Samuel Otene. Dr. Samuel will be giving the opening remarks on behalf of the president of the Nigerian Cancer Society. Dr. Otene, please. Is Dr. Otene there? So we'll just give a few minutes for Dr. Otene to be able to speak.
What happened?
Okay, Chief, you have the floor. We're just introducing you to give the opening remarks on behalf of the president of the Nigerian Cancer Society, Professor Abidemi.
Sorry, my network just tripped off and came back again, fortunately, within a few seconds. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. On behalf of Mr. President, Professor Abidemi Omonisi, who happens to be in transit right now and mandated me to at least just make a few comments or remarks on his behalf. I want to welcome all of us to this all-important meeting. It's the third in our series of NCS Uncle Paddy bi-monthly webinar. And having gone through the first, gone through the second, I think we've actually begun to get a very good hang of it right now. I think we are on a road. So far, it has been wonderful. The past two have been wonderful, and I do not expect any less of this one. So I want to welcome everyone to this meeting. The topic itself is a very interesting one, life after breast cancer. We are in October. the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Pink October, and as such, anything that we speak right now, most of the time is relevant to breast cancer. So it's not a surprise that this is a topic that we have picked for October's bi-monthly webinar. We want to look, I personally look forward to getting more enlightened. I see a retinue of great, wonderful speakers that I know I have a lot to learn from. And I will just want to join the many others who are on this call to sit down quietly and listen and have a field day learning. Once again, we are all welcome. We thank Oncopadi for this collaboration as NCS, and I wish us all a very wonderful meeting. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chief. It's wonderful to all be here. It's a wonderful time to be here. And now, without any further ado, I'd like to ask for our first speaker, Dayo Ojo. Could you please put on your video? Would have you to take your first presentation. Dayo Ojo is a 14-year breast cancer survivor who lives in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. She got her breast cancer diagnosis in 2011. Upon her diagnosis, she immediately commenced treatment as recommended by her doctor. She had neoadjuvant therapy, underwent 8 cycles of chemotherapy, surgery, radiotherapy, and hormone therapy. Her treatments were all done in Nigeria, which is a very important topic here. Based on her personal experience with breast cancer and the exposure to a not-for-profit organization in the United States that supported victims of breast cancer, Dayo decided that she would give back to her society. And that's how she formed the El-Peace Sapphire Foundation, a foundation that supports breast cancer patients in Nigeria. Since its inception, El-Peace Sapphire Foundation has been very committed to this cause. They support breast cancer patients in many ways, including organizing monthly support group meetings, providing for prosthetic breast forms, paying hospital bills when possible, and different volunteer activities. So I'd like to welcome Dayo Ojo for 10 minutes of presentation. Welcome, Dayo.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Victor, for that warm introduction. And thank you to the organizers of this webinar for inviting me and counting me worthy to share my story. I consider it a great privilege. My name is Dayo Ojo, as already mentioned. Today, I'll basically be sharing my story as a breast cancer survivor. I'll start by talking about my diagnosis. I found a lump in my breast one wonderful morning while I was taking a bath. And I just decided to examine my breasts for, because I always hear it's nice to check. I had never checked. Lo and behold, I checked and I discovered that I had something in one of my breasts that I didn't have in the other. I asked my husband to examine, he did, and we both agreed that I go see a doctor as soon as possible. Well, upon seeing a doctor, I was told that, and then an investigation was done, a biopsy was done. I had a lumpectomy at the time. When the results came out, I was told that the growth was benign and that I had a fibrocystic breast condition. Well, 6 months down the line, I started to notice some changes in that breast. I went back again to the doctor, and this time around, they did a quadrantectomy, and it was found that I had breast cancer. Of course, I was very devastated to hear that I had breast cancer. I didn't see that coming. I grew up in the city of Jos, where I ate a lot of fruits and vegetables and generally lived a healthy life. I never drank alcohol. I never smoked. I never did any of those. Yet I got breast cancer. I breastfed my babies for at least 1 year. But here I was with this diagnosis. Well, upon that diagnosis, I started my treatment immediately. I got my diagnosis on a Friday. and I commenced chemotherapy the Monday following. Well, treatment started, and I had what they call neoadjuvant therapy, which meant that I had some courses of chemotherapy before I went in for surgery. And then I continued chemotherapy, and then I did radiation therapy and hormone therapy following, since the type of breast cancer that I had was hormone-based. That's the simplest way I can describe. Of course, while going through treatment, I suffered a whole lot of side effects. I lost my hair, my skin color darkened, my taste buds were practically not functioning. I couldn't taste food properly. I experienced a lot of nausea. I had diarrhea at some point. It was just a whole lot. In fact, at some point, my white blood cells was 0. So they had to quarantine me because at that point, I was very susceptible to any infection. It was a whole lot to deal with. But I'm glad that I came through it. While going through this treatment, and I always like to mention this part, I enjoyed a lot of support. Support from my spouse, support from my children, support from my family, support from my in-laws, support from my friends, support from every corner possible. Each time I went into surgery, when I wake up from anesthesia, my husband is sitting right beside my bed. I had friends who were willing to do school run for me at the time because my kids were young at that time. So I had people who would volunteer to take my kids to school and bring them back. I had friends who would help or volunteer to do grocery shopping for me. I had support all around. So I like to pause at this point to say, if you have anybody dealing with cancer around you, they need a lot of support. Please lend that hand of support however you can. Everything is not all about money, but giving a shoulder to lean on, being there to just do some running around, to take kids to school, to bring them back, to do some cooking, they all contribute. So I had a lot of support. My husband told me at the time, don't worry, nothing has changed. And God is going to bring us through this. And I'm glad that indeed God brought us through. My husband was 100% supportive. I had all of my treatment in Nigeria. I did my chemotherapy in Port Harcourt. I had radiotherapy in Lagos at the time. And then I had hormone therapy for 10 years after. Of course, after that breast cancer experience, I have since done my medicals periodically as advised by my doctors. So at every point in time, I'm required to do certain investigations, which I make sure I follow through on ensuring that I do them. Finance was a challenge because cancer treatment is not easy. We all know that. Spiritual influence and support. I like to say that nobody can go through this cancer journey without some spiritual guidance or help. I had to lean on God. I am of the Christian faith, and I can almost say that God practically held my hand through this process. Every time I was in the hospital, I had my headphones plugged in. I would listen to inspirational music, spiritual music. I would pray. I would just, connect with God. We all need that supernatural power to get us through challenging times like this. So it's, you cannot separate the two. Oftentimes, I would even pray for my medical healthcare providers. I would pray that God would give them the wisdom to do the right thing for me at the right time. So I did all of that. Well, I had my treatments and thankfully my body responded well and I've been doing well since then. Life after. Of course, I still deal with some side effects from the treatment. For example, I suffer lymphedema. I have learned how to manage it, but yes, I still suffer lymphedema. I also have to deal with stigma. I have 2 daughters. Some people tell me, why do you keep talking about your story? Why do you keep being vocal about it? Your daughters would not find people to marry them. That is some form of stigma, right? But I press on. Well, beyond all of that, I live normally. I'm an entrepreneur. I carry on with my business as normally as I can. By the grace of God, I'm very energetic and I just live normally. I'm glad that God has kept me and I'm doing well. This is 14 years. Some of my pictures have been projected. You saw me when I was going through treatment. When I had a bald head, I had lost my hair at the time. You can see me wearing the compression sleeve because I suffer lymphedema. But that didn't deter me. You can also see me. That was at SeaWorld in Texas, in the US. I went for summer and I still had fun. Even with my bald head, I would wear my makeup. I would put on big earrings, just look good. So my message to people going through right now, sometimes it's not about what you are going through. It is about how you carry the load that you have to carry. Do your best to look good. Do your best to push. Just do your part and trust God for the rest. The next slide shows a few pictures from my advocacy activities. I do a lot in the advocacy space currently because I feel that God kept me for a purpose. So since 2013, we registered the LP Sapphire Foundation and we have done a lot since then. I'll brief you about those later. The third gallery shows me as an entrepreneur. I am in the event space. I cater cocktails to events. I think I do a good job at that, even though I say so myself. But yes, these are pictures from a few of the venues, where I have had to cater. Well, in the introduction, they talked about the origin of LP Sapphire Foundation. I would not like to take so much of your time, but I was inspired by another woman who went through breast cancer in the US and who is giving back to her society by helping victims of breast cancer. I was a beneficiary, and so I decided to come back home and give hope to others because I also found hope. Since 2013, since LP Sapphire has been registered, I can tell you that we've assisted about 1,000 women. LPs is the Greek word for hope, and sapphire is a gemstone that shines. Our goal in LP Sapphire is to give hope to victims of breast cancer, support them through the process until they come shining like a sapphire. So to assist these women, we do that in many different forms. We provide prosthetic breast forms, mastectomy bras, lymphedema compression sleeves, all free of charge. We also provide counseling and moral support in every way we can. We talk to patients on the phone. I volunteer at Rivers State University Teaching Hospital to talk to newly diagnosed patients. Some of the members of our support group also counsel patients at the UPTH surgery clinic for breast cancer patients. We also support patients with paying for their bills whenever we have the ability to do so. Those are some of the things that we do. What else? Yeah. So we do a lot of advocacy activities like I'm doing right now. In the course of the month of this October, we would have several of those kind of events, both online and physical. We organize support group meetings every month, every last Saturday of the month in Port Harcourt, and we have done that since 2013. I already mentioned how I counsel at BMH, plus financial support. And then we liaise with doctors, pharmacists to ensure smooth sailing treatment for patients. Sometimes patients reach out to us, oh, I don't know where to go for radiotherapy. Oh, I don't know where to buy my medicines and all of that. Because we are involved with this network of doctors, we are able to give some navigation to victims of breast cancer. That is a way of supporting those patients. We collaborate with other NGOs to achieve a common goal. Last weekend, we were with Embrace Life Foundation in Port Harcourt on a road walk that was done to raise awareness for breast cancer. And then every now and then we do annual events for breast cancer. Well, our sponsors first, my partner and myself, she's also a breast cancer survivor. We do a lot of things out of pocket. Friends and family that know what we do support us. Other kind of individuals also support us. But the bras and the prosthetic breast forms that we give out, most of them have come from SLEW. SLEW is the not-for-profit organization I mentioned I came in contact with in the US. They've supported us even till now. B4G Foundation is another foundation that has constantly supplied us prosthetic breast forms and bras. They give us these items at least once a year. They've been of immense support. I wrote to the American Breast Care some time ago, and they made a one-time donation of these prostheses and bra donation. If you'd like to support us, you can talk to the organizers of this event. Our account details are there. Just to show, just to support us, you are free to do that. And our contact is also with the organizers of this event. I would stop there for now. Thank you. The questions are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dayo. Wonderful story, 14 years in the making. I believe it's been a very long journey. I'm sure we'll take questions towards the end because there'll be lots and lots of questions for you from different people. But I'd like to hand over to my co-moderator, Modupe Laja, who would introduce the next speaker. And towards the end of all the presentations, we'll now take questions and answer. Modupe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Victor. Thank you very much, Dayo Ojo, for that presentation, for sharing your story with us. I think a lot of women listening to you have gotten lots of strength from what you have said. And so we will now be moving on to the second speaker for today. Before I read her bio, I would encourage us on the call to please reach out to our friends, family, caregivers to join the webinar so they do not miss out on this. Now, our second speaker, before she comes up, I'll be reading her bio, where she'll be speaking to us on the Gift of Survivorship, You Are Bigger Than Cancer book. Dr. Omolola Salako is a global health leader, award-winning cancer researcher, and senior lecturer at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. With over 2 decades of experience specializing in oncology, she is among Nigeria's 90 skilled clinical oncologists focusing on cancer treatment. She's a self-defined entrepreneur and founded several vibrant startups, including Shebekli Cancer Care, Oncopadi Technologies, and Pearl Oncology Specialist Hospital. Through Pearl Oncology Specialist Hospital, a Lagos-based chain of cancer centers, she provides affordable, quality, and personalized cancer care, ensuring patients receive the most effective treatment and the best chance to fight cancer. Pearl Oncology is also committed to forming partnerships that enable it to offer highly subsidized screenings and treatments periodically, such as the Breast Health Friday initiative, which aims to improve access to early detection and care. Dr. Salako leads a dynamic digital health research team at Oncopadi Tech. Two of her notable innovations are the Oncopadi Cancer app, which empowers cancer patients, caregivers, and clinicians to make informed care decisions, and the PostCare app, an AI digital patient monitoring platform. This app helps cancer patients track and manage side effects related to their treatment. The PostCare app is currently used in clinical and research settings by hundreds of cancer patients, with over 16 types of cancer treatment across Nigeria. Her outstanding work in the field has earned her numerous accolades. She was honored as one of the brightest minds in cancer research for 2021 by the American Society of Clinical Oncology. She was awarded the 2023 Global Bridges Oncology and Pfizer Global Medical Grants. And so please welcome with me Dr. Omolola Salako to speak on the 12 Gifts of Survivorship book. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And
I'm grateful to share my story with you, as well as share some inspiring tips to pull through cancer, whether you are a patient or a family caregiver. My name is Dr. Omolola Salako, and the reason why I stepped into oncology and became a clinical oncologist is because my sister was diagnosed with advanced cancer in 2003. Unfortunately, between the time of diagnosis and the time she passed on, it was less than 3 months. And that was a very rude shock. She was also a teenager. So I think the shock and the way she changed and how the news was so grave and how she eventually died, left a huge vacuum in my heart, in my life. And that now is a lot of fuel I use to do the work that I do. So I'm privileged to be one of 100 clinical oncologists in Nigeria. But it didn't start because I wanted to become an oncologist. It's because cancer took away my sister. And since then, I have spent a great deal of time, finding better ways to improve care. And there are many things that I have done that I'm proud of, but one that I'm really proud of is this book that I'm presenting, that I'll be launching very soon. I'm the author of The Gifts of Survivorship, You Are Bigger Than Cancer. And I would like to acknowledge Dayo Ojo, the previous speaker, who shared her story, and many of the things she said resonates with the reason why I wrote this book. Even though I have treated thousands of cancer patients, I know there are two types of patients. Those that will allow cancer define them, and those that will not allow cancer define them. And this has nothing to do with the stage of cancer or the type of cancer. This has everything to do with your mindset. Over the years, every time I sit with a patient, especially women, it is normal to be scared. But what is not acceptable is to allow cancer make you lose sight of your destiny, your purpose, and where you're heading to. Because everyone on this call was born at some period of time and eventually will pass on, including myself, at a certain period of time. It is a normal phenomenon of life to be born and to die. But when we talk about cancer, many people over-focus on the day of death and lose sight of what they are going to do with their life and the very reason why they exist. And so as I treat cancer patients and their family caregivers, I see them lose focus of every other thing that matters because cancer has now distracted them. Cancer is the center stage of everything they do. They design their life around the cancer. And I say this with all humility and simplicity because I don't have cancer, so I can speak this way. But I also understand that there are certain things that cancer should not steal from anybody. It shouldn't steal your kindness. It shouldn't steal your joy. It shouldn't stop you from helping people. And that's why when I hear people like Dayo Ojo, I know they understand the concept of you are bigger than cancer. Because cancer may be the toughest thing you are facing or you have faced. And cancer is something that can break the human spirit. But through it, you will rise and be a better person and help more people because your life is bigger than cancer. And that's how I came about the Gifts of Survivorship, because about 15 years ago when we were running support group meetings in Shebekli Cancer Care, as I sat with women and I was counseling them, I identified that there are certain characteristics that help patients elevate from I am a patient to I am a purposeful person. And some of these things, Dayo has talked about them. So the way the book is crafted is Gifts represents 10 chapters in the book. There are 2 G's. The first letter in gift is, G. And the first G is God, which Dayo touched on. And the second G is goals. And so when someone is diagnosed with cancer, are they thinking of will I be alive or will I be purposeful? Will I achieve my goals on earth? Will I know my purpose? And so at the end of the day, the book that I'm launching very soon is really to remind each and every one of us that cancer doesn't define you. The fact that you have cancer is just a few chapters in your life. It's not your entire story. You are made up, if someone lives up to 80 years old, you have 80 chapters in your life. If you happen to have cancer, maybe at age 30, and you're out of it by 32, that's 2 chapters. Now, focus on the very reason why you're on earth and why you exist. And so in this book, which I'll be launching in November, and this is the cover page, it's a gift that is nicely placed on a stone. And this stone represents the difficulties many of us face in life. For some, it's cancer. For some, it's divorce. For some, it's not having children. For some, it's having children and maybe 1 or 2 of them have special needs. For some, it's financial distress. And there are many obstacles that life throws at people. But at the end of the day, your resilience and your purpose shines through how you handle these difficult challenges. And the first step is to identify what is that thing that is challenging you and how can you elevate? How can you support people better? And how can you be a better person? And so in this book, I am not speaking as an oncologist. It is more of a divine message than a clinical conversation. It's more of a conversation that touches on the spirit and the reason why you exist, rather than talking about how to, get cancer treatment and all of that. It's a book that touches on the reasons and the way you can elevate. Because when life throws us obstacles, sometimes we need to hold on to anchors. And in this book, there are 10 anchors that I have shared, that I have seen amongst many cancer survivors and people who have different obstacles hold on to and elevate past it. And so the book has 10 chapters divided into 5 parts. The first part focuses on how you can embrace your spiritual core. Chapter 1 is God. And in this chapter, I touch on thanksgiving, gratitude, forgiveness, and how you should engage with God better, whether you're a Muslim, Christian. Chapter 2 touches on your life goals. And your goals must be rooted in your self-identity. Who are you? The fact that I'm an oncologist is not who I am. I am more of a person that illuminates the dark path people go through. And the dark path may be caused by cancer. And sometimes it's not even about cancer. I just happen to have the cancer community as a platform to shine my light on. And so I just want to encourage everyone that we all have our lights, whether it's large light, big light, or small light. Your little light, let it shine. And cancer should not dim that light. The most important thing is you must shine that light before you leave Earth. And in this book, we touch on different concepts you can use to set your life goals. We talk about a concept called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how you can prioritize your life to identify your purpose and then be of service to humanity. In part 2 of the book, we focus on empowering yourself with knowledge. Chapter 3 talks about accurate information because many times when someone is diagnosed with cancer, they have to make decisions. The decisions you make are either good or bad. From my experience in Nigeria, many people make poor decisions because their cancer IQ is low.
The knowledge they have about cancer is low. Therefore, they would opt for all types of treatment that don't work and then come to the right hospital, see the right specialist when it's too late. For example, I ran a clinic yesterday. I saw about 8 patients, and 5 of them, I saw them, the disease is already advanced. Most of them had their diagnosis 3-4 years ago and did nothing about it because they used supplements, they went to spiritual leaders, and so on and so forth. So in chapter 3, I break down the importance of getting accurate information, how you can build your cancer IQ, and then share resources so that you know that when you are making a decision, you understand the process in which you are making the decision. Are you making this decision from information that is accurate, or are you making this decision from a point or place of fear? Or this one said that, that one said that. So I run through a systematic process in which you can build your cancer IQ, whether you are on cancer treatment or you are post-treatment. In chapter 4, I touch on food and fruits. And in that chapter, I touch on very interesting concepts around fasting, the role of fasting in cancer care, how to safely fast, which foods are great, and there are some interesting recipes that are in the book. And at the end of the day, it's how you can boost your immunity. Many times, patients come into the clinic malnourished because they've been told, don't drink this, don't eat that. In this chapter, we address all of that. The third part in the book focuses on nurturing your support system. And I like the fact that Dayo mentioned that earlier also about the importance of support. You can't go through life alone. If you have a beautiful life, and beautiful life does not mean you don't have obstacles. We all have beautiful lives. It depends on what you focus on. The fact that you have cancer or have any obstacle doesn't mean that you don't have a beautiful life. Some people tend to focus on what they don't have or what is stressing them and ignore completely what they have. Some people continue running and jumping when they should sit down and take a rest. And so it's important that you appreciate your family, you understand your family dynamics. Not everybody in the family will be of help when there's a cancer diagnosis. And I touch on important ways to address family members, identify family members who will be true support systems. Because in clinic, I have also seen family fights, family breakdown, misunderstanding. We've been involved in pulling the family together on what I like to call a family decision meeting. Because sometimes the person paying for the patient's care is a family member who does not understand the treatment plan. But because they are paying, they call the shots and say, go to this hospital, do this, do that. So in chapter 5, I touch on how you can strengthen bonds during a cancer diagnosis, how to have a family decision meetings, and all the necessary steps to bring all your family members together to have a sensible conversation where everybody wins. Chapter 6, we touch on finances, and because we know cancer care is expensive all around the world, particularly in Nigeria, where more than 95% pay out of pocket with limited health insurance. We focus and zoom in on how to budget and where you can get financial resources from. And we've included how it is so important to get health insurance. And that is all included, which is very relevant for readers in Nigeria. The fourth part of the book talks about mastering your treatment journey. And so in chapter 7, I wear my hat as a clinical oncologist, and I talk about the most common treatment modalities: surgery, chemotherapy, target therapy, hormone therapy, and immunotherapy. And we just talk through it, and I explain concepts, why we merge treatment, why we may choose neoadjuvant chemo over adjuvant chemo. We talk about immunotherapy, and it's an important chapter for anyone who has just been diagnosed and wants to enter treatment, it's important they read it so that they understand what to expect from their treatment plan. And there are common questions that have been included in that chapter. Now, each chapter has a workbook where you can then answer certain questions that give you clarity. Now, this book will only be useful to you if you apply it. So it's not just about reading, it's about reading, reflecting, and personalizing it to yourself or in your own life. For this book, you may choose to start reading from chapter 1, or you may choose to read from chapter 7 or 8. You don't have to follow it chapter by chapter. So far, with the few survivors who have read the book through with me and who have been kind enough to share their stories in this book, they've identified that we don't have to start from chapter 1. Some people want to understand how they can get financial support in Nigeria, so they would rather read chapter 6 first than reading maybe chapter 4. Another survivor said, I really want to boost my immunity. I want to know how I can fight off cancer and, have better overall health, know how to cook food better, and just support my system. And so just to say that this book is very flexible and it's not written in medical jargons. It is layman language. It is well explained. It's well thought out. So part 4 of the book, chapter 7, talks about treatment, while chapter 8 follows closely, and we talk about side effects. The side effects that occur during treatment and shortly after treatment, we call that acute side effects. And then side effects that occur 3 months and later on, and we call that late side effects. I also share resources on how you can cope with side effects and the steps you should take in case there is a side effect. One of my organizations, Oncopadi Technologies, has developed an app called ProsCare app. And that app allows patients on treatment to report their side effects, and immediately they get clinical advice from healthcare professionals. Currently, the app is being used in 5 cancer centers in Nigeria by more than 300 cancer patients. And so all of that is in chapter 8. The last part of the book is, I think, my favorite part, how to find peace. Cultivating inner peace. Because when you are not at peace, you can't make the right decisions. You can't sleep well. You can't be at peace. And we should all be at peace. And this is one thing cancer should not steal, your peace. And so chapter 9 talks about songs. And remember Dayo mentioned it, and she said, I listen to music. I just wear my headphones and I listen to music, because music elevates your spirit. It inspires you. It puts you in another realm bigger than the negative thoughts that come to your mind when you're thinking about any obstacle you may have. Sometimes you don't have to sit in the problem you have. And there's a quote that says, life is not about having problems. It's about going through these problems. And one way you can elevate yourself, heal yourself, is by listening to music. Certain songs are able to heal you. And we talk a lot about the science of music and how you can use music, curate your music list, and so on and so forth. Chapter 10 is serenity. We talk about the serenity prayer, and I just sort of dive very deep into how you can find peace of mind when you're in a storm. Imagine there's heavy rains. Most people don't want to play in the rain because they will get wet. But sometimes playing in the rain is what you really need. And so this book is for anyone who's newly diagnosed with cancer, whether they're undergoing treatment, if you're a family caregiver, if you run an NGO or a support group. The Gift of Survivorship provides everyone with many stories of hope, evidence-based techniques. As I'm a medical doctor, it's important I put a lot of science in. I break it down very simply. And there are many tools, some you're aware of and some you're not aware of, that you'll find useful in the book. At the end of the day, you're not just reading a book and closing it. You are going to pick up strategies that will improve your life on a daily basis if you apply the principles. And we are launching the book in November. I would like you to join the wait list to be part of our community by clicking the link here, and I believe it will be dropped in the chat box soon. I would love to keep you up to date about the book and how we are faring, the date of release, how much it will cost, and just, build a support system of inspirational people, stories, and just everything you need to know so that you don't let cancer pause or paralyze your heart desires and especially your purpose. For everyone who reads the book, they will see life in a different perspective. And thank you so much for being part of the Gifts of Survivorship community. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarako. Please let's drop comments in the chat. This has been a very insightful time with you, Ma. Thank you very much for taking this few minutes to explain to us about the 10 gifts of survivorship. And for the person raising her hand, please do wait for the question and answer session. We'll soon have it. We'll just be having our third speaker up next. So please, if you have any questions, so that you don't forget it, I would encourage us to please write it somewhere, write it down, because we'll actually be taking it next. Please hold on. So for our third speaker, she's already on the call. We'll be bringing her up now. But before she goes on to speak, we'll need to actually introduce her. Because she's going to be speaking to us on a very important topic. And so before I go into the bio, I would encourage us on the call, please reach out to your friends, family, and caregivers. If they have missed the last 2 sessions, they can still be part of this one. And so we'll be listening to the topic, understanding the connection between metabolic syndrome and breast cancer, by Dr. Prof. Tomi Akinyemiju. Please, the next slide. And so I will now be reading her bio. Dr. Akinyemiju is a professor of population health sciences. She's an obs and gynecologist and global health. Her methodological expertise combines social and molecular cancer epidemiology, cancer biology, and health disparities. Her research accomplishments have focused on articulating and innovating conceptual and empirical approaches for cancer health disparities research, specifically disentangling the role of race as a social construct and race-associated biological mechanisms that contribute to cancer disparities. Dr. Akinyemiju also leads cross-institutional programs centered around building cross-enterprise, multi-stakeholder coalitions to advance health equity, promoting inclusion and diversity, and mentoring the next generation of diverse, talented clinical research scholars. Dr. Akinyemiju has received numerous awards, including the 2023 Michelle Wynne Inclusive Excellence Award. Dr. Akinyemiju has published more than 180 peer-reviewed publications, and her research program has been continuously funded by the National Institute of Health, Susan G. Komen, and the V Foundation. She has mentored formally and informally over 65 trainees and junior faculty, over 60% of whom are underrepresented minorities. Dr. Akinyemiju works extensively with diverse stakeholders, including community-based organizations, policymakers, providers, health system leadership, and leaders from diverse communities to develop impactful evidence-based interventions to advance health equity. Please welcome with me Dr. Akinyemiju. Over to you, Ma.
Thank you so much, Modupe. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Ma. Loud and clear.
Great. Okay. Well, it's very nice to be here. I'm really honored to receive the invitation and be part of this panel. It's a very big task presenting after the first 2 speakers who are so inspiring and passionate about this topic. And I'd just like to encourage everyone to kind of shift gears a little bit and think a little bit about the science and the research and how the research is also an important element in our battle against cancer, and to make sure that more patients receive treatment that works for them, that improves their survival and minimizes side effects. So I actually changed the title.
You're muted, Ma.
Sorry, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Ma.
Okay, so I changed my title a little bit, and I think it actually fits better with what we've been talking about earlier. So the first approach is how we use science and research to better understand breast cancer among Nigerian women. And really the key and the goal at the end of the day is to change the story from one of breast cancer being, this really problematic, difficult, challenging, often toxic experience to a story of hope. Next slide. Okay, so when we step a little bit back and look at the data, so I'm an epidemiologist, and what we do is, for every patient that's diagnosed, we try to understand when were they diagnosed, what are the conditions, what are the characteristics of the patients, because doing that enables us to have like a 10,000-foot view, understand what's happening in our communities, what's happening across the country. And we've been doing this work, collaborating with Dr. Salako for about 10 years now, and studying breast cancer among Nigerian women. What we've seen that has also been supported by other reports is that the number of patients being diagnosed have been increasing rapidly, especially in the past 3 decades. So we're seeing a lot more people diagnosed with breast cancer than we did in the past. As Lola had mentioned earlier, many of the patients in Nigeria are diagnosed very young, about 70% before the age of 50. And many are diagnosed at late stage when the disease has already advanced. So almost 70% are diagnosed at stage 3 and 4. So those have important implications, right? Because when you're diagnosed younger, it tends to be a certain type of breast cancer, which might be a little bit more difficult to treat. It tends to be more aggressive. It tends to advance very quickly. So our goal is to really understand what is driving this increase in breast cancer overall over the past 3 decades. Why does it tend to be younger onset, and why is it such an aggressive type of breast cancer? And as epidemiologists thinking about the data and looking at populations, it's really important for all of us for us, especially researchers, and this is something we don't take lightly, that behind every statistic, when I say 70% diagnosed before age 50, each one of those numbers is a woman, it's a family, it's a story, it's somebody's mom, somebody's wife, sister. And really, we also think of it as an opportunity for change. The more we learn about that patient and that tumor, the more we understand the strategies that will be most effective to prevent other patients from hopefully developing cancer. Next slide. And why we do this work is because the vast majority of knowledge and understanding about cancer in general, and even breast cancer specifically, are based on information that were collected from European, American, and Asian patients. So they have cohorts and patient populations that they've been studying for the past 50, 60 years, and they have hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of patients that have provided data, provided samples, and they have done really extensive studies to understand what drives cancer in those populations. And that is information that informs what the chemotherapy looks like, the immunotherapy, what kind of surgery works for what type of cancer, down to the subtype, down to the age group, the grade. And so all of that information is available, and it's tailored to those populations where the data came from. The downside of that is when we just adapt our results or findings that were developed from other countries or other populations. In Nigeria, for example, it may work, it may not work. It's really hard to tell because it hasn't really been tested in our population. It may work and have side effects that nobody had ever seen, again, because nobody studied it in our population. So our main study, which is the collaboration with Dr. Salako that I mentioned, is focused on centering the experience of African women and is intentionally designed to understand the experience, the perspective, really understand what cancer looks like in our community and elevate the voices of the patient so that we are listening, we're understanding what that experience is like, and that helps us tailor some of these interventions to make sure that it is effective and safe in our community. So understanding what drives breast cancer in Nigerian women is key to developing interventions that are tailored, that are more effective, that are safe for our community in Nigeria. Next slide. So 2 areas that I want to focus on as part of the work that we've been doing is inflammation and metabolic health. So when we talk about inflammation, so this is the body's natural defense system against an infection or injury, stress or trauma, and a host of other factors. So this is how the body kind of creates a defense system, makes sure that your body temperature doesn't go too high, makes sure that an infection doesn't overwhelm the immune system. So the body has some ways it releases some chemicals, some cytokines that really counters all of those external factors that may otherwise be helpful. When you continuously have inflammation, when you're chronically inflamed, where there's multiple infections over time or ongoing stress or a lot of trauma, that can lead to what we call chronic inflammation, meaning there's inflammation that doesn't subside after a while. And that chronic inflammation has been shown to be very harmful for healthy tissue, right? It can lead to a lot of health effects, including increasing the risk that somebody might develop cancer. Chronic inflammation is something that we can test in the lab. So we can do blood tests, for example, looking at CRP, which is one of the chemicals that the body releases. And when it's spiked above a certain threshold, then it becomes a concern, but it's something that can be clinically addressed as well. The second focus area is on metabolic health. So this refers to how our body uses energy. It's a combination of your blood sugar levels, cholesterol, and body weight. This all contributes together into this overall metabolic health status. It is important to know that it's possible for someone to have high BMI, so for somebody to be obese, and for them to have to be metabolically healthy. So their blood sugar might be normal, they may have normal cholesterol, but they're obese, right? It's also possible for somebody to be not obese, to have normal BMI and be metabolically healthy. So you all probably know people who are normal weight or very, or maybe even underweight that have high blood sugar or challenges with high cholesterol. So it's important to disentangle the two a little bit to think of obesity separate from metabolic health. Both of them are important, and both of them are also relevant for thinking about breast cancer, development of breast cancer, response to treatment, as well as survival. Next slide. So in relation to inflammation, some of the studies that we've done, and this is the main project where we recruited breast cancer patients and also had healthy controls from several states in Nigeria. So we recruited from Osun State, Lagos State, Ogun State. And so these are Nigerian women that were diagnosed with breast cancer, and we compared them with women who did not have breast cancer. What we found was that women that had cancer were more likely to have high inflammation, right? So this chronic inflammation that I talked about is more common in breast cancer patients. And actually women that have high inflammation were 4 times more likely to have breast cancer compared to women that had low inflammation. So the CRP, one of the blood tests that I mentioned, for every time that CRP value doubled above the normal threshold, it increases the risk of having breast cancer by about 30%. So this just shows us that, this is something that we really need to pay attention to. We understand the biology, that the release of all those chemicals and biomarkers in the blood in a chronic manner. So inflammation is normal when it's acute, when it's time limited, but when it continues over time due to many of the things I mentioned, like stress or trauma or infection, when it doesn't return to normal level, can lead to increased risk of breast cancer. Next slide. So in terms of metabolic health, like I mentioned, it's about how the body is using energy. And there are 5 key factors that I really thought about when we're assessing metabolic health. So one is the blood pressure. Some of the ranges are here. And if some of this information will be shared later, I think this might be helpful for people. We have the blood sugar levels, HDL cholesterol, triglycerides, and waist circumference. So all of these are around, how the metabolic system works, how much our energy is being, consumed, and then how much are those being expended. We also think of something called metabolic syndrome, where when at least three of these 5 factors are above normal or abnormal, then that's a condition called metabolic syndrome. So by themselves, each of these factors can lead to worse health outcomes. You can think of hypertension being by itself a condition that we need to worry about, high blood sugar leading to diabetes, high cholesterol increasing the risk of stroke, for example, high waist circumference, a marker of obesity. But when you now have multiple of these factors combined together, that further elevates the risk of worse outcomes. And these factors have been shown to be very, very important in breast cancer. Next slide. So again, in that study where we were comparing people that developed breast cancer with people that did not have breast cancer, we saw that women that had poor metabolic health, so they had, at least 3 of those 5 factors that I mentioned that were abnormal, had almost double the risk of breast cancer. They were almost 2 times more likely to have breast cancer compared to people that were metabolically healthy. And then digging even deeper, when we look at the triple negative subtype, which is one of the types of breast cancer and one of the more aggressive cancer types that are more difficult to treat clinically, we found that the risk is actually about 4 times higher. So having poor metabolic health, we found in Nigerian women, increases the likelihood of breast cancer of triple negative breast cancer, specifically about 4-fold. So this is something that we really are concerned about. The results here actually are consistent with what other studies have found in the US and in Europe, but they have not found magnitude of our associations as large as what we found. So usually when you're looking at the US or in Europe, we see that having being metabolically unhealthy maybe increases the risk by 20% or 30%. We're seeing 84%. We're seeing 4 times increased risk here for triple negative. So this is something that's particularly of concern in Nigerian women. And we think this might partly explain why breast cancer cases have been increasing over the past 3 decades, because as we all know, we have a more sedentary lifestyle. Our diet is different from what our parents and grandparents used to eat. So we're more likely to be obese, we're more likely to have diabetes, high blood pressure, and all of those things. So those might be some of the factors that are driving the increase in breast cancer, and might also be driving why so many of Nigerian patients have the triple negative subtype. Next slide. So focusing in on body weight a little bit, you all probably know this, but there are different categories based on BMI. So BMI is something we measure using your weight and your height, and it gives us an estimate of body fat, right? So here's the range that as kind of the evidence-based definition for various BMI categories. We consider normal weight between 18.5 and 24.9, and then overweight and obese after that. So these are the standard classifications that are used worldwide. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, it's important for us to distinguish between BMI and metabolic health. When we look at BMI alone, we found actually in Nigerian women that having a high BMI or being obese was actually associated with a lower risk of developing breast cancer. This result was seen mostly among younger women, pre- and perimenopausal women. And this is completely different from what other studies have found in Europe and in the US, where they have usually found that high BMI increases the risk of breast cancer. So this is something we found that was unique in Nigerian population. Next slide. So that is not to say that it's okay to have high BMI and to be obese. It just means that in the context of breast cancer, the association is a little bit different, and we need to think about it a little bit differently. So when we compare the results we found between metabolic health or metabolic syndrome and high BMI, we found that being metabolically unhealthy increased the risk of having any breast cancer, and especially the triple negative. But high BMI was associated with reduced likelihood of having breast cancer. So the important point to note here is that it might not be about how much fat there is in the context of Nigeria, right? Specifically, we can't extrapolate beyond the data that we have, but it might be about the quality of the fat, right? It might be that Nigerian women are a little bit more obese, but maybe it's not the same type of adipose tissue, maybe not the same type of fat that you would see in other populations. And the type of fat also has an important relevance for the metabolic pathways, right? Things like the triglycerides and the cholesterol depend on what type of fat that people have. So there may be different mechanisms that's making metabolic syndrome so much more harmful for Nigerian women, or maybe that's leading to lower risk associated with BMI in Nigerian women. This is something we are continuing to study, but this again highlights the importance of us having our own data, studying our own patients, understanding our local context, because many times when we extrapolate and we take results, because it works in the US means it works here, it might be a little bit different. There might be things that we miss. There might be important things that might actually work in our benefit here that we're not really capturing. So that represents a really strong opportunity for us in Nigeria. Next slide. So as has been mentioned, and I'm sure extensively covered in Dr. Salako's book, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but in general, I think diet is so important. Being active, drinking plenty of water, knowing your biomarker levels, knowing your blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol level is very important. Just, as a healthy kind of regular just health checkup. But also because it might down the line impact your health and cancer risk. And of course, if you know anybody that's female that might be age 40 and above, encourage them to get a mammogram. Those are really, really important, tangible, very simple things that every one of us can do today. Next slide. And then together, I think if you pay attention to the cycle of empowerment, is really thinking about how all of these are interconnected, right? It's really important that we start with data from our people that really dives into our experience and our perspectives. That helps us, create awareness about things that are evidence-based, that are data-driven. It improves the knowledge as a society and individual so that you know what is important for you to do to improve your health. That informs the types of action you take so that you're doing the right thing. And that helps us prevent breast cancer from either developing or make sure that our treatment are more effective, make sure that people can live healthy, longer lives with fewer side effects. So just a plug here that, research matters. Your participation in research matters. There's a lot of information we can glean from the data or biospecimen that you provide that, might help you today, but even if it doesn't, will help other people and will help our society. Once you have access to some evidence-based, really science-based information, share that widely in your schools, your workplace, your churches. The flip side of that is if it's something that is not evidence-based, if it's just something that somebody said and they heard or they saw on social media or something like that, let's not spread misinformation. Those are just as harmful and can actually be quite detrimental. In your whatever community you live in, advocate for access to screening and treatment. Talk to your politicians, talk to your representatives, anybody just advocate for having in your local area, in your city or in your state, resources to support screening and treatment. And then again, build awareness because knowledge is power when it's shared. Next slide. So we're still kind of trying to answer a lot of important questions. We're still trying to understand, if there are genetic differences that may affect how our metabolism works and how that might affect cancer risk. We're trying to look at screening. Is there a way to refine the screening algorithm? Because the guideline says start screening at age 40. But if 70% of our patients in Nigeria are being diagnosed less than age 50, that means a lot of patients are in their 20s and 30s when they are being diagnosed. Is it time to develop a more relevant screening regimen for our population? Thinking about inflammation, like I mentioned, are there unique, biological or inflammatory patterns in Nigerian women that may either be harmful to us or be protective to us? It's important to understand what those are. And then how can we develop prevention strategies? And how can we tailor prevention strategies to help us prevent breast cancer in Nigeria and help people that have been diagnosed live longer, healthier lives? Next slide. So my message is just that working together, we really can change the story of breast cancer. And, I cannot say enough. We have about 1,500 women that have provided data and samples. They provided blood, saliva, tissue during the time of their diagnosis to make this research possible. And, without them, none of these insights would be possible. It takes courage, right, to help participate in research, to lend your voice, but it is crucial to help us understand new ways to prevent and treat breast cancer. And, it's really going to help us to transform the future of cancer care in Nigeria and beyond, because other countries, other areas could also benefit from what we're learning. And I think working together, it's possible for us to visualize a future where every woman is informed, supported, and empowered, and we can change the story of breast cancer to one of hope. So I think that is my next final slide, but go to the next slide. Okay, it was just my acknowledgement slide, but thank you everyone. Just a big thank you to all the collaborators in all the sites that contributed to the research, and yeah, look forward to answering any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Tomi Akinyemeju. It's been an amazing time listening to you speak on this topic, and I'm sure everyone listening to you has learned a lot from what you have said, Ma. And so now I will be passing the mic to my moderator, Mr. Victor, to take us on the Q&A. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Tomi. Thank you, Dr. Salako and Dayo Joe. Very interesting conversations that we've had. I have a lot of questions myself, but I would like to see the questions that have been asked in the chat box first. I know that someone has asked about procedure for joining the NCS. We have Dr. Tessie Amadu, that is Assistant Secretary of the NCS. She'll be speaking later, so I hope that she's able to. Dr. Tessie, I think you should be able to unmute and respond. Yes. So someone is asking about the procedures for becoming a member of the NCS. Okay, while we're waiting for Dr. Tessie, I think she'll also respond much later when she's speaking on behalf of the NCS after this Q&A session. There are also questions about, someone asked Dayo Ojo. She said that you were diagnosed on a Friday and you were able to start treatment on a Monday or so. I think you mentioned something like that in your presentation.
That's correct.
Yes. So she's saying, why were you so confident to do that? How did that come about? Because for most people, once they get diagnosed, in fact, that's the norm now. Once they get diagnosed, they go away for weeks and months, before they're able to have the courage. So what gave you courage to start immediately?
That's a good question. Two things. Just like Dr. Lola said earlier, information is power. I had some family members that are medically inclined. And even though we all cried throughout the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, everybody said, well, you just need to get started immediately. And so I knew I had to start. Why? Because it was clear that this was breast cancer. Remember, I said the initial investigation had suggested I had a fibrocystic breast condition.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 6 months later, that breast started to change. Initially, when I found the lump, I wasn't sick. There was nothing wrong with me. But now I was now observing changes in that breast. So it was clear that something was wrong.
Mm.
And I had always heard the radio jingle that says early detection and prompt treatment is the key to surviving it. I cried. I was devastated, but I also knew that I had to move now. And since I had all it took to move immediately, I just got started. That was it.
Thank you so much. It's really inspiring to hear that. Prof. Tommy, so there are questions about weight, and one of the interesting things that you did was say that the risk factor, a higher BMI, was actually correlating with lower risks of breast cancer in Nigerian women in particular, which almost sounds like a counterintuitive, because people actually thought that people on the bigger side, either big in the body or with bigger breast tissues, were the ones more at risk. And we are seeing that maybe data. Can you please shed more light on that?
Yeah, so this is something we're still studying, but not all fat are created equal. You can think of somebody who is 6 feet and very very buff, right? Who maybe have a lot more. So if they measure their height and weight, they would be in the obese category of the BMI. But it's not really. It's different from somebody who is maybe 5 feet 2 inches and 200 pounds and overweight, right? So it might be a different kind of fat. So there's a lot of research going on about, lipids, which is just another word for fat, and how the distribution, where it's located in the body, what type of fat it is, where all of those things, there are subtle differences there that might be what is driving the risk, right? One type may be driving cancer risk and the other type may be protective. And the question is, what type is it that we tend to see in Nigerian women? So this is something we need to explore. So the take-home message is not that everybody should go and eat, whatever it is, unlimited. We all should strive to be in a normal weight category, but don't just solely focus on your body weight. Think about your blood sugar and your blood pressure and your cholesterol and all of those things as well, because they go hand in hand, but they also have an important impact. And I'll let Lola talk more about, I think there was a question about losing weight and all of those things. So she's the clinician, I'm the researcher, and she can shed more light on that.
Yeah.
Every time
Dr. Lola.
every time I heard the findings from the MENT study, I'm blown away, because when we're thinking of triple negative breast cancer, which is common in Nigerian women, it's quite aggressive amongst all the cancer types. To then do a study that finds out that women with triple negative breast cancer have a higher metabolic syndrome. Something that is very important, as Prof. Tommy was talking, is to see it from there's good fat and there's bad fat, just as there's when we're talking about cholesterol, there's good cholesterol and there's bad cholesterol, and there are levels we want. So what I'll encourage all our survivors on the call will be, the next time you pop in to see your doctor, ask them, just let them know that you would want to know your numbers and you're interested in metabolic syndrome, and you just want them to run all the tests to assess that. You can also ask for your C-reactive protein to be done. And it's just a healthy way of it's just even normal for every adult to do this test so that we all know our numbers and we can live healthy lives. But it's very important if you've been diagnosed with cancer, any type of cancer, even though our study is focused on breast cancer, but all types of cancers, just sort of understand if you have metabolic syndrome coexisting with cancer, then you should manage that metabolic syndrome, because our study is showing that it may influence the outcome of your treatment. And so if you're able to drive down blood sugar, bad fat, and all of that, you would live, you'll have a healthier lifestyle. There was a question on, what was the question?
On how to lose weight gained during treatment.
During treatment. So there are some reasons why someone on treatment may gain weight. It may be due to certain drugs. There are certain steroids we place our patients on, and that can make a patient gain weight. It can be due to, poor eating habit. It may be due to the reduced activity, physical activity that happens when someone is on treatment. Maybe they're experiencing tiredness and fatigue. And if you have gained weight during treatment, it would always be for you to have a conversation with your doctor to identify the best pathway. But something we all know is for you to engage in exercise. We recommend, catching about 10,000 steps a day, walking. You don't have to do anything intense, but just take, long walks or short walks, whatever you are comfortable with. You can take walks of 15 minutes 3 times a week. If you're part of a gym or you have access to a swimming pool, those are activities you can engage in. But the most important thing is every day, take walks and be physically active. Your diet. For many of our meals, some of us are not conscious of the calories in it, or if our meals are balanced at all. Some people are taking too much carbohydrates, little protein, when you should be having almost the same portions of proteins and carbohydrates. So it's important to talk to a dietitian about that, because at the end of the day, it's the amount of calories, it's a balance. The amount of calories you lose versus the amount of calories you gain through eating. And lastly, sometimes what is driving this weight gain may be more metabolic. Some people have insulin resistance, some people have hormonal imbalance, and that may be contributing to the weight gain, not necessarily what they are eating. So have a conversation with your doctor and then try and live healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. Plenty of advice. And there's also someone asking about Mrs. Dio. I know that you mentioned that you have supported breast prosthesis. I don't know whether that is an ongoing intervention that you do. I know that Dr. Salako also was involved in breast prosthesis, at least up to last year. I don't know if she still does. But a couple of people are asking about breast prosthesis. Dio, is that an intervention you currently still do?
Yes, that's an intervention we currently still do, but only when we have them. So like I said, we have some sponsors. Every now and then they make those donations to us, and we do not control when they send them to us, so it depends on when we have them. And usually when we get them, we would just give it out during our support group meetings. So, yeah, that's how we work it.
Okay. If someone was to get it on purchase, are they places that's easily available? Dr. Salako and Dio.
I know that I have personally bought a couple of times via Amazon. And I know there was a lady in Lagos who used to sell. I don't know if she still does.
2 places that I'm aware of in Lagos. The first one is Pearl Oncology Specialist Hospital. They do have prosthesis for sale. And Bricon Foundation. They also have prosthesis and mastectomy bras for sale. So anyone interested can reach out to Pearl Oncology or Bricon Foundation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Salako. There's a question about help with surgery, which we may not be able to deal with here. There's a question about the effectiveness of from Ifi Okwegbele. She says, how effective is a screening program for prevention and is it accessible? Screening program for prevention in Nigeria. Anyone can answer. Yeah, muted, ma. Okay. I thought you were speaking.
Is it how effective is the screening program for cancer prevention, and is it accessible? Is there a health promotion to reach out to for women? I'm not clear on that question, but cancer prevention screening is important. That is pap smears, getting HPV vaccination, women going for their mammogram, and then doing their laboratory blood tests to check for their blood sugar, all those tests Professor Tommy talked about. It's important to do that. Is it accessible? In the primary healthcare centers across Nigeria, general hospitals, teaching hospitals, and private hospitals, you can walk in and do your cancer prevention test. If you are health insured, talk to your HMO. They can also share more information on that.
Okay,
and the question on phylloides tumor, can I just answer?
Please go ahead, ma.
Okay. I think I'll find the question. Okay, how can I manage malignant phylloides tumor? Because after mastectomy, the tumor came back. So the challenge with phylloides tumor is that it's one of the malignant type that easily comes back after surgery. The risk is very high. So usually the oncology team will combine chemotherapy, radiotherapy. There's a way they sequence it. To treat this cancer, it requires a multidisciplinary team where all decisions are not made by one doctor, but made by at least 3 cancer specialists: the oncologist, the surgeon, and the pathologist, the radiologist. So I think you should request for an MDT to, review your case. Sometimes, even with the best treatments, cancer may reoccur. But the important thing is, at the time the treatment is being done, that treatment plan should have been approved or recommended by a multidisciplinary team that will say this is the next type of treatment you should do for the reoccurrence. Just to say that when cancer reoccurs, it can still be treated effectively. So please have a conversation with your doctor. And if you're not satisfied, consider a second opinion.
Thank you very much, ma. Professor Tommy, you have a question about how to fight inflammation. Is it about what we eat from favor?
Yes, so it's everything we've been talking about. It's the food, it's the exercise, it's trying to minimize, stress. I'm sure Lola would have some good tips in the book, how to minimize those exposures. So those would all be very important. But once you do the tests and it's shown that you have high inflammation, and if the doctor thinks it's chronic inflammation, meaning it's persistent over a period of time, there are medications that can be used to help as well to get to that point. But I think the most helpful in preventing it is some of these lifestyle changes we've talked about.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think I've caught up with most of the questions. There's a wait list that you can click to book for the advanced copy of the book, Gifts of Survivorship by Dr. Omolola Salako, that she says she to be coming out sometime in November, which is just a month from now. There is also contact details in case you need breast prosthetics for different breast forms. There's a contact detail. Dr. Otene has also dropped details of how you can become a member of the NCS. We'll check whether there's a link that someone can click and maybe fill a form before the session is over. I'd like to thank all our speakers today, and I'll maybe give 1 minute for any last words before we move on to the next session. Starting from Professor Tomi.
Well, thank you all for your strength and courage and showing up today and listening and asking really good questions. And just want to say again that your experience is not wasted. It's something that is, it's tough, it's difficult, it's challenging, but through that, there's strength and resiliency, and there's insights that can benefit other patients as well. So I appreciate everything that you all are doing.
Thank you, Prof, for your time. It was very an insightful session. Dayo.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to the two doctors. Both of you have given me some deeper insights into this journey. Thanks for all that you do. And thanks to this platform for the opportunity to share my story. I'm sure it may have inspired one person or more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dayo. I like what you said about inspiring one person. If you inspire one person, that's a huge task, So thank you so much for sharing your story and for being strong for other survivors as well. Dr. Salako?
I would like to thank the Nigerian Cancer Society for ensuring that we're able to pull in qualified speakers who are doing great work in Nigeria and elevating our patient voices. Just to remind all our survivors and their family caregivers that you are bigger than cancer. And I would love your support by you registering with the link for the books waitlist, so that when we are launching, you get real-time updates and you can be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. With that, I'll hand over to my co-moderator, Modupe Laja, to take over for the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Victor, and thank you once again to our amazing speakers. And so we'll be moving on to the next thing on our agenda, which will be the announcement. And for the announcements, we will have the announcements by the Assistant Secretary General of the NCS Secretariat, and that'll be Dr. Tessie Oiza Amadu. Over to you, ma.
Okay, thank you, Modukwe, and good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, ma.
Okay, so I bring greetings from the Nigerian Cancer Society, the president of Nigerian Cancer Society, Professor Abidemi Omonisi, who is unavoidably absent from this meeting because he's engaged in another meeting. And he sends his regards. We want to thank all the speakers and everyone who have shared their experiences today on the topic Living Beyond Breast Cancer. Dayo Ojo, Dr. Salako, and Dr. Akinyemiju. We appreciate you and all that you have said today. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's a very busy month for those who work in the cancer space, and we all know that. And we're encouraged we encourage state chapters to try to encourage to engage, and give back to the society, give back to their the communities where they live. A lot of them have been doing, a lot of state chapters have been doing this, and we appreciate. There will be a meeting of the expanded NCS NEC this evening, and the president is busy with meetings and trying to also meet up with that meeting at 8 p.m. On Monday, the 13th of October to 17th is International Cancer Week. And for all those who live around Abuja and all those who will be attending, the NCS wishes you a safe trip to Abuja and a very fulfilling week at the ICW. The National Dialogue on Radioisotope Use is also coming up from the 28th to 30th of October. And during this period, we are also NCS is hosting in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Health, where we'll also have a National Oncology Symposium, the Town Hall meeting, and then the annual general meeting of NCS. And we encourage everyone to do well to attend these meetings. For the question that was asked on how to be a member, I think Dr. Otene has done justice to that. He has posted the link on and the cost of registration. I just want to encourage you that the first thing you should do is identify with your state. It is easier to be involved in NCS activities with your state because the national is, like the national body and just directs and helps with organization and everything. But when you want to be involved and you want to give back, then the states where you belong to is where you will be able to give back appropriately. Thank you everyone for attending the meeting and have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that announcement. And it's very good that you shared that with us. And so now I'll be passing the mic to my moderator, Mr. Victor. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Modupe. Thank you so much, Modupe. And thank you, Dr. Tessie, again for bringing us up to speed with the many events that are happening at this time of the year. I'd like to welcome Dr. Samuel Otene for the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Victor, and I thank everyone for sparing all the time to have been with us from the beginning to this point. We want to thank all the speakers. Mrs. Dayo Ojo, thank you for sharing your 14 years experience with us. It was quite inspiring. Thank you, Dr. Salako. Thank you, Professor Tommy Akinyemiju. Thank you very, very much for sharing all those insights with us. We want to also appreciate the NCS National Exco, all the members of the NCS National Committee on Training and Capacity Building, and the entire members of NCS, really, because in one way or the other, each person actually did one thing or the other to make this program a reality. Thank you, the great collaborators on this platform, the OncoPADI team. Without you, none of this would have happened. We are very grateful. And for all the participants, we thank you for joining in, for staying with us all through this over an hour. Victor, Modupe, our great moderators, thank you for all you've done. We know it's not easy. We just pray that God himself shall replenish all the strength that we have used in the course of this program. Thank you once again for making it a date with us, and we look forward to having all of you again at the next webinar in this series. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Otene. Thank you everyone for joining, and with that, we'll call it a night. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Thank you very much. Oh, they want to take a group picture. Okay. I don't know if it's possible can everybody turn on their video and let's see if we can take a group picture. You may have to make the attendees panelists, or you have to.
Exactly. The attendees are not panelists, so we cannot switch on or
so it's
switch off.
tricky. Yes, except you're able to do that at the shortest possible time, then it might be difficult. Okay. So we're just waiting to see, is it possible? It might take a bit too long. Okay, so let's call it a night. Thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate everyone for spending the time and listening. It's been a wonderful day. Have a good night.